The best people to design a game are the ones who are going to play it. Shinji Mikami, the guy behind the Resident Evil franchise, is a man who was extremely scared of zombies, and so he was the perfect person to bring that fear to everybody who played the game. Now, Shroud is trying to do the exact same thing with FPS games, and honestly, there's a good chance that his game is going to revolutionize the genre. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of it, let's first refresh your memory about Shroud and all of the experience he has under his belt. Formerly known as Eclipse, Michael Drzysek has been streaming for a decade and is one of the biggest Twitch streamers in the world. His channel is currently ranked 10th on all of Twitch, and he has over 10 million followers today. He was a professional CSGO player when he started his career, and from there he switched to Valorant and had a short-lived professional career in that game too. The highlight of his career was definitely in 2016 when he helped lead his CSGO team to a first place finish in the Pro League. In short, he's one of the greatest FPS players in the world and has one of the biggest followings too. This means that he has the experience and the fan base needed to completely change the FPS genre and breathe new life into it. As of today, FPS games are stagnating as time goes by. The most memorable entry in the past few months was XDefiant, whose main tagline was the fact that it reportedly had zero skill-based matchmaking. While that got it a lot of attention and helped it cross the milestone of over 8 million unique players in the first week alone, that growth has stagnated since then. In the past month, it has stuck around 1 million concurrent players, which is not bad to say the least, but if Ubisoft can't innovate more and fix some problems like buggy hitboxes, we're going to see the same case as Multiverses, another game that had incredible potential but flatlined and then died out. While we covered Multiverses in another video, the thing with both Multiverses and XDefiant is that they don't bring something to the table that you can't find with other games. Even if all of the bugs are fixed, the truth of the matter is that XDefiant is just a free-to-play COD with the Ubisoft IP slapped on top of it. While the no skill-based matchmaking is a nice change, it's not big enough to really innovate on the genre. This strategy of not straying too much from the basic FPS game template might work today, but just how many of those 1 million people will be playing the same game with the same mechanics and the same graphics 2-3 years down the line? How many players will be playing COD a decade down the line? Eventually, people just get bored. We've seen so many games get famous within days, and then lose all of that fame just as quickly. The way you actually maintain staying power is by providing something to the players that they cannot get anywhere else, and then innovating more and more on it as time goes by. And that's where we get back to Shroud and his game Spectre Divide. At first glance, it's a classic FPS title with cool guns, abilities ranging from invisibility to X-ray vision to much more, and everything else you'd expect in a game of this genre. But it comes with a twist. You can control 2 bodies. Now, I know what you're thinking. That just sounds like you have 2 lives instead of the usual 1, but it goes so much deeper than that. The way it works is pretty simple. You start off with 1 body, and then you can spawn in another whenever you want. You can only control 1 body at a time, and the other body will be completely vulnerable to enemy attacks. And the potential this has for big brain plays is completely insane. For example, we've all come across that one player who just sits in a good spot and snipes the entire game. Well, now you can use your other body to lure out the sniper, and when he's reloading, you can take him out. Or if you're being shot at by multiple players, you can put your body behind cover, get into your other body, and flank the enemies before they kill you. We've all lost games because our teammates messed up and weren't good enough, but this mechanic gives you all of the power you need to win in any situation. This is also something that no other game in the genre has done yet, which makes it a great hook that can bring in a lot of players in the perfect position to succeed. If they can create enough depth using the double body mechanic and all the different characters, there's a good chance that we could be looking at an overnight success like Apex Legends. This could be the game that hits all of its player count milestones within the first few weeks of being out. But why? What makes this game different than all the other FPS games being developed right now? And why should you care? We'll answer all of those questions in the rest of the video, but starting off with what makes it different. The most important thing here is the team behind the game. While we focused a lot on Shroud here, he's just the lead advisor in this project. In reality, there's an entire studio of about 20 to 30 people who are hard at work developing this game and turning it into the finished product that we will see soon. The developer is called Mountaintop Studios, and when you take a look at the people who make up the studio, it feels like their success is almost guaranteed. Now, as you might have noticed yourself, recently there's this wave of AAA games that have been tanking one after the other. And at the same time, so many new indie studios have come into the spotlight making absolutely breathtaking games. A big reason this is happening has to do with all the talent working behind these games. A lot of big studios have really bad work ethics, from employees facing harassment to being forced to work 70 to 80-hour work weeks. They also have to focus on their brand image, which can sometimes cause them to change things in the games they publish just because it might be too risky, and hence make the game worse overall. Many studios have also transitioned from one genre to a completely new one, like Rocksteady going from making single-player games to a live service game. This has been accompanied by huge layoffs and massive resignations, meaning that much of the amazing talent that brought us our favorite games were now suddenly free to be hired by studios that are just up and coming, and many people even opened their own studios. Then, these amazing people make many of the new games that we love, like Dead Cells and Marvel Snap. Coming back to Mountaintop Studios, it seems like they have caught on to this trend, and if you go to their LinkedIn profile, then you'll see that they have veteran developers from huge studios like Respawn, Riot, Bungie, and much more. We don't know the exact size of the team, but it's labeled between 11 to 50 people on LinkedIn, which means that even if only a couple of people from each studio are present, that's still a huge chunk of the team being veteran developers. Though that on its own isn't what makes this game special. It's the fact that they're actually working together with major players. So many FPS games have a history of not listening to their player base, but Mountaintop is trying to be the exact opposite of that, and is working closely with not just Shroud, but also other big YouTubers like Tarik, another Valorant and CSGO player who's one of the biggest FPS names out there. These players have played thousands of matches and have reached the absolute limits of what you can do in FPS shooters. If there's anyone who can figure out what really makes an FPS game fun, then it's players like these. And the amazing team at Mountaintop can bring their vision to life in quality that can rival giants like Apex Legends, CSGO, and Valorant. It also has the added benefit of giving a lot more marketing to the game because these streamers will play it in front of their audience of millions. Many of the big success stories in the past few years like Baldur's Gate 3, Helldivers 2, and even games that went viral for a while like Palworld and XDefiant all had one thing in common: word of mouth. One person saw the game, loved it, and told all of their friends about it. Then the story got picked up by gaming news outlets, and eventually these games became a worldwide sensation. But it's not all perfect. If you look through the comments on many of Shroud's posts, then you'll notice tons of people are comparing it to games like Valorant, Borderlands, and CSGO. Many players are even making jokes about it, saying that it looks like a low-budget Valorant, while many other people who got a chance to play the game earlier this year, as well as the people who are playing it in the closed beta while we speak, have a really positive view on it. At the end of the day, as it is with so many games, there's really no way of knowing whether it'll be a success or a failure. But looking at all the information we've seen today, from the amazing team behind Mountaintop Studios, to the double body mechanic, to even big creators and pro players like Shroud and Tarik taking part in the creative process, all seems to say that at the very least, it's going to be a cool game to play. And with the number of overnight successes we've seen this year, maybe Spectre Divide will finally shake the FPS genre out of the slump that it's been in. As always, thanks for watching, and consider liking and subscribing to help support our channel.